Here we are. Episode 50.
Wow.
Can't believe we made it.
Barely.
You're listening to the Fight for Together podcast.
Special episode today.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on. Let me see if I have a flea on my leg.
Get it? No.
Felt something crawling around. Way to start off the episode. Yeah, I guess that's the story of our life in this podcast. So if you are new here, welcome. This might not be the episode for you. If you already have been around for a little bit, this is going to be a little opportunity for us to reflect on the last 50 episodes and share a little bit of our story and some of you guys' stories and phone calls.
We started 1 year ago
Yeah,
and got 50 episodes in. Yay.
not bad. And I am nostalgic, although not as much as I used to be. But one of the reasons why I really geek out about reflecting on our work in retrospective ways is because there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And I think we're all kind of the same. Like what we've learned to face our demons and to put this product out, I really do think everyone has aspects of that in their own life, although it might look different.
Mm-hmm.
Our friend Robin, who listens, usually, this will be
Hi,
the
Robin.
test. She recently shared about how she wanted to start making furniture and how she thought, she couldn't do it and there's not enough time and all these things. And that's the same stuff that we deal with. So if it's furniture or music or writing or crafting, I don't know what it is. My hope is that in sharing this story, I just want you to know our belief system is that this podcast is not that unique. I mean, it is and it isn't. So anyways, that's the preaching segment I have. We're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing we face to get this out is hopefully maybe some of the same things you guys are facing to get your story out. So I thought maybe we'd just start by sharing the story of how this podcast came to be.
Yeah.
So we're coming up actually on our vlog anniversary. Well, it passed, I think, but we haven't filmed anything about it. But
Yeah, it was a couple days ago.
4 years ago, we started the vlog. So for 3 years, we had been filming the vlog.
Right.
And I think about a year ago, maybe it had 30,000 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Enough that we start to feel it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, you just make whatever the hell. And you're like, well, here it is, internet, like it or don't.
Right.
And then
it evolves over time to something hopefully beautiful.
I think you're saying something. What are you saying?
Well, because, how we started off was so funny. I mean, it was just, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. And we were, like, you didn't really know how to edit. Like, we didn't know how to, like, capture shots. Like, how do we decide what goes on a vlog? And a lot of this was your job or what you took on. And for me, it was like, this is how you talk to a camera. And this is how you just pretend that either there's no one else on the other side, or maybe if that doesn't work, like one other person.
Okay, but I don't want to get into the vlogging too much because that's a whole nother thing.
Yes.
So we had done that though for 3 years, and we had an audience that was big enough that it felt like they're demanding excellent product from us of a certain vein.
You can kind of take on a life of its own after a certain point, I feel like.
And I'm like, wait, are we the boss or are you the boss? And no one knows. Who knows? It's
Are we the bitches?
So around that time, the podcast came about. And I had never really listened to podcasts. In fact, I've listened to podcasts more this year than ever in my entire life.
Yeah.
And we were driving across the country and we were listening to Casey Neistat's podcast, which I think he's discontinued unofficially.
They had some new content this last month. I didn't listen to it.
Yeah, maybe like one episode in 6 to 12 months. But basically, they would turn on a microphone and just talk.
Yeah, him and his wife.
And at the time, it was interesting to me. I don't prioritize his podcast right now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, oh, you can do that?
Yeah. It's not like, it doesn't have to be super polished or...
And it was just the inspiration I needed, kind of like the permission, I guess, to say, you know what? I think we could turn on a mic for an hour and talk.
Yeah.
Because we had a lot of other challenges. We've been trying to write a book this year. We're trying to put out 5 vlogs a week most of this year.
Started a new channel.
Well, that was more recent.
Right.
And we actually haven't even done anything for that, so I don't even like to list that.
But we started it.
But I thought, you know what? I could turn on...
Just hit record.
Which turns out is not a super easy thing, because then comes the challenge of having to buy fucking microphones and mic stands.
And figuring out all the little songy things.
Sound effects. We still have not figured out. Get a intro song. Figure out converting MP3 files to AIF files, which I still don't know what that even means. But we did that.
Yeah.
And for 50 episodes, we pushed record and we stuck it up there.
Yep.
Every week.
Not incidentally, I don't think our first episode was recorded from a nudist resort. The first couple, I think, actually.
I think we might have recorded 3 while we were there.
We're on a roll.
But it was really nice, like, what happened, because I found from this conversation, we were, I don't know, I felt like it hit some sort of release valve with me, where there was topics I felt comfortable with just in dialogue and with probably fewer people that were listening, that I didn't feel when I had the pressure of the vlog. I mean, it actually, in the beginning, I felt like, oh, no one's going to listen to this. And I was like, that's kind of nice. We can just talk and be ourselves. And then if 5 people listen, it's probably the right 5 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's go back and look. I'm kind of winging this, but let's go back and look at some of the episodes we did over.
Cue the music.
Music.
It's a joke.
Oh, sappy music?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
Not that organized.
Maybe a year from now.
So here they are. Let's go back to the beginning. How about?
Oh, I have short hair.
Scheduling out. Oh, the first 3 were not even video,
no.
Which would make sense because we were at the nudist resort.
We were naked. Yeah.
So we have scheduling out of chaos, burnout, carpenter versus gardener. Oh, there we were in our old format. We were both facing the camera.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about going to a nudist resort. So it took us 6 episodes to get into this table, which is now we face each other, which is much more natural way for us to film.
Yeah.
Facing death and free solo. I Kiss Dating Goodbye. Oh, which is really funny because Joshua Harris is like an hour away from here right now. We were texting
I noticed
tonight.
that.
I feel like I could meet up with him tonight if I wanted to drive an hour. And I kind of did, but... Then we did these sex education pieces. I really liked those. Mm-hmm. I feel like that was some of our best stuff in terms of... I mean, they were conversations things that are really changing our life.
Yeah.
gay Christians, Game of Thrones, a lot of sex. Looks like sexual compatibility test.
We did like Tinder, right? In one of these, which was kind of funny.
Pure flicks, how Christian movies destroy relationships. Being rich versus being poor. Black sheep syndrome. Wow, that's all. We're barely making it to 25. Those are all in the first 25 episodes.
Yeah.
Is porn wrong? Narcissism and a psych evaluation. That episode got a lot of views. Sex shaming and the purity movement. Once again, sex. So we covered a lot of stuff.
Yep, we did.
And then things we did to improve our sex life. That got a lot of views.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we've done it every time, and here we are.
Yeah.
So we offered a way for you guys to kind of call in, and we have a few phone calls we want to play today to hear from you guys. So we're going to start off with one of those.
Hi, Ben and Cammie. It's Barry Ladd from Imperial Beach. I'm reaching out this way on the podcast line because I'm not, I don't have a Facebook or any of those other things. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that you guys are the best. I feel like I've found friends, and I'm 51. I got 5 kids. My 23-year-old daughter experiencing, the mental health thing, and yeah, it's been tough, really, really, really tough. And you guys just make me feel good. I appreciate you, and I like dealing with people that like to think outside the box and aren't scared to step outside that box. And yeah. Anyway, I just I need somebody to talk to, and I love listening to you guys, and I just want to talk back sometimes, and this is the only way I can.
Wow.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
That is, I'm really just taken aback with a comment like that, because it shows me that this matters, like what we're doing, and it's been hard to see it as mattering for me. But when I get a call like that, and I can just hear the loneliness in his voice, and I've been there, and that
Very recently, actually.
Yeah, right. In the last couple of years. Yeah. So thank you, Barry, for sharing that.
Yeah, it's a reminder to me. I mean, it's easy for me to see this podcast for what it isn't. I feel like it could be shorter. I feel like it could be more organized. I feel like it could have higher production, better sound quality, better organization. But all of those aren't really helpful. They're all just like kind of reasons why not to do something.
Yeah.
And when I look at what we've done, I think, is this. For 50 episodes, we've shown up. That's step one. You show up. Number 2, we told our story, like in various forms.
Yeah.
And number 3, I don't know if this is an actual prerequisite. Maybe it's part of number 2, but I have this belief in my head, at least, that the truth is enough. That when you show up and you tell your story, and when you just tell the truth, that the truth is actually interesting and life-changing and valuable. And you don't have to make it high production.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with high production. I mean, I hope that we evolve and get better at our craft, but
What is that noise?
Memory's giving Rainier a bath.
Oh. That bath noise makes that noise down here.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Bear with us here. yeah, I mean, I think eventually, yeah, things, if we waited for everything to be perfect, we probably wouldn't have 50 episodes out. Like, maybe we wouldn't have even started yet. So,
And I'm really in this wrestling thing where I'm wondering, who is this vlog for? Is it more for these people out there? Or is it more for us?
yeah.
Just to, like, do things. Because I notice every time we shared our story and we're honest, it helped us to get to the next step of where we needed to get to. And just as an example, we were at this nudist resort this last weekend, 1 year later, and we scheduled it that way on purpose, not for nostalgic purposes, but just like, I don't know, it just worked out.
Yeah.
And so much has changed for us in this year. 1 year ago was the first time we had ever been.
Yeah.
And this last year, nudity and sexual freedom and freedom from shame and getting comfortable with our bodies and our sexuality and a lot of ideas has been a major theme in our life. And part of that, I mean, you talk about like just the first experience taking your clothes off and what it's like to be seen and how it feels like I didn't have this experience exactly, but I've been in situations where you feel like if people see you naked, you're going to die. It's like being exposed in that way is so scary, physically.
And it almost, for me, looking back, it felt like when I was taking my clothes off, it was like I was taking off all of the lies that I was told about my body, about what God thinks about my body, what other people think about my body. Not that that happened overnight, but I just get this image of this like tangible image of when you're taking your clothes off, you're actually taking off all this other garbage too.
So that was physical. And then you realize, well, it's actually not that big of a deal. Like you do it, you can get used to it. No one really notices as much as you think they're going to, at least in certain contexts.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly.
And in a way, I think podcasting for us or any expression, self-expression of your art is the same. It feels like, you're
naked.
Like exposing yourself and you're going to die and people are going to make fun of you and it's not good enough and people are going to look at that and say, that's too small, that's too big, that's stretched out, that could be smaller or bigger.
Right.
And it's scary. It was scary. It still is scary in some ways.
Yeah.
But you just do it.
I think the more you do it, the less scary it gets. You just realize even if you do get haters, you're not going to die.
And then when you take your clothes off, you meet other people that have taken their clothes off, and they're fun people to talk to. And I think in the same way, as we've been more honest on this podcast and taken off our figurative clothes with our ideas and thoughts and feelings, it brings people to the surface that say things like, oh man, that really helped me, or I feel that same way, or I like you guys, or I'm not alone, or you guys make me feel less lonely, and things like that.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. You ready for another phone call?
Yep.
I'm going to push that little button right there.
Hello, Ben and Cammie. This is Kelsey. First of all, congratulations on 50 episodes. It's amazing. I've been along for the ride the entire time, and I've very much enjoyed it. So first I want to say thank you for showing me a different way to live. I know I've mentioned this on your Instagram page before, but I used to think, oh, I can't do stuff because my children, they're too young. They can't go do this with me. And by seeing you guys go out and do stuff with your kids, like the Appalachian Trail and even going out on a run, I changed my mindset. And my son has actually been out running a couple times with me, and he's 5 years old, and he loves it. So it's like, why not? Why was I thinking like, oh, my children are holding me back when it's like they can be along for the ride with me. So thank you for showing me that different way. I think a lot of people think children aren't capable of doing that, or, oh my gosh, they're going to get hurt, when no, they're just fine. They're capable of more than we think they are. And it's been fun to see my kid kind of blossom in that sense. I'll say, oh, Mommy, he's going to go out for a run. Do you want to come with? Yeah. And he gets his shoes on, and it's just, it makes me feel so good as a parent, seeing that I'm not only setting a good example for my kid going out and getting exercise, but hey, you can come along too. Like, there's no problem here. So, thank you for that. And also something I just come to realize, about going to church. And I think I also mentioned this on your Instagram too. I have been hung up so long on thinking I need to go to church to be religious or a Christian. And in my religious family members' minds, it's like, oh, I should be going to church, and I'm not really living that life if I don't attend a church. And because of you guys and how you guys have dealt with issues in the past, concerning, churches or people in the religious community that have hurt you, I've seen like how you guys have changed and sort of created your own system of belief. Like, it doesn't have to conform to anybody else's. I don't have to go to church to prove that I'm X, Y, and Z, whatever. And I'm really interested in hearing more of what you guys have to say on your Everyone Belongs channel on that, because on one hand, I think...
All right, go to the next D there, yep.
Okay, my message got cut off, but I'm going to finish up my thought here. I know it's great to look at church as like being in a community of people and fellowship with other people, but I don't necessarily have to go to church to get that, right? So I'm interested in hearing more, getting into that more. And hopefully you guys do on your Everyone Belongs channel. And finally, it's kind of difficult to feel vulnerable in this way, but one thing that I've taken away is that it's okay to be more vocal in the bedroom with my husband. And I've seen how you guys have changed and how therapy has been helpful for you. And I thought, well, why not for me too? Like, I know my husband has a healthy appetite for sex, and I feel like I'm like, oh yeah, sometimes I feel like, oh, it's a chore and I have to do it. And I'm changing my mindset now to think it can be so much more enjoyable for me if I go into it with that attitude of not thinking of it as a chore and really connecting with my husband in that way. It can be so much more enjoyable. And I found out too that my husband actually enjoys me telling him what I like, and it makes it more enjoyable for him. So thank you for being so open and vulnerable in your own sex life, because it has been helpful for me, and I hope it has been helpful for other people. So, all right, guys, happy 50th again, and I look forward to hearing more. Bye.
I'm doing a real applause, and I'm going to pull up more for the last part. That was a long message, but the sex part was at the end. Mm-hmm. Had to get to that.
Yep. It's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked how she talked about the sex for her, I think, doesn't have to be a chore. And I kind of cringe, actually, if I were to be honest, with that language, because not because of Kelsey, but because of in my past, that kind of language was used to kind of shame the woman into, oh, you should have more sex. But I don't think that's what she's saying. What she's saying is actually if she sees this as for her, not just for her husband, and that she can actually enjoy it just as much as him. And tell him what she wants, vice versa, whatever. And be less passive, basically. Just be less passive, be more assertive in your sex life, even if that means saying no, Yeah, I like that.
Well, there was a theme in what she shared with the whole church thing and the sex thing, I think, which is you have a choice.
Yes.
You don't have to do anything. Like,
No.
you actually don't.
You actually don't.
Nothing. Ever. I mean, there's consequences.
The only
to some
person that's
actions.
making you do that is yourself, unless you're, there's some people who are forced to do things, but.
Well, and Kelsey is saying that, she appreciates that we showed her this by example, another way to live.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like, that's our role on this planet in some ways. We don't do this, like, on purpose. We're living our best life, which is, I mean, it's hard to explain. It sounds weird to even talk about, but, like, I don't set out in the morning and be like, I'm going to be different today. I just don't think the same way as other people, and it just leads to a certain lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And it's cool that can be inspiring to people, but here's what I want to say. It takes a special kind of person to be open to different mindsets and examples and not threatened, or maybe sometimes it's both, but to still be willing to listen and be open to change. And I'm not saying to be more like us, by the way, because that's not what we're trying to create here. But I have learned enough to know that we are different and that we jog people like it's almost like a slap in the face or a wake up sometimes. And they're like, oh, I was living this way and I didn't know that I had the choice or that it could be different. And I love, love, love when people tell us specific stories. I mean, it's better in the bedroom. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Or even not feeling guilt about not going to church. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But those are hard. Those are all hard things. Change is so, like, unnatural in a way. I mean, it is natural, but it's like it has to be intentional, I think.
Yeah.
Where if you just go with the flow, you kind of, it's easier to remain the same.
Right. But I read this quote, which I think I believe, even though you don't feel it maybe always, the pain in the same way. But you can either choose to have pain by staying the same as you are right now or by changing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Do you want the pain of staying the same or the pain of changing?
Yeah. And I think there's this, I don't know, false thing that we can think, this is my opinion, that the pain of changing is worse than the pain of staying how you are. But I don't believe that.
No.
But I do see how it can feel that way.
From a herd mentality, when you go and do something different, like let's say you stop going to church, people are going to be like, "Oh, that's dangerous."
The instant pain smarts. Like when you change, like the instant pain really hurts, I think.
You become a target.
Yeah. But the long-term satisfaction from that, I can't get enough of.
By the way, I meant to tell you, I think your hair is really cute right now.
That's memory. She did it for me.
I like it.
Should have her style it every morning.
I don't know about that, but I like looking at it right now.
Oh, thank you.
What are you doing afterwards?
Going to bed.
Oh. Hang on. Where is it? I need to get my...
Maybe the booing crowd.
Yeah, where is that?
Jay.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm helping you. Yeah, I really liked how the way that she said it. She said, I don't remember what exactly she was talking about that she saw in our life. But instead of saying, oh, I'm going to be like the Crawfords, she said, I can have that too. Like she personalized it for herself.
Yeah.
Which I think is fantastic.
So you guys who are listening, by definition, are an inspiration to us. Because in that way, you're like us. And that one of the best traits I feel like we have is not that we ran a marathon or that we hiked. It's that we're willing to change and embrace whatever we think is best for us and our family a lot of the time. And I'm attracted to people that are that way. and I want to be around more people in my life that are that way. I think it's healthier for me to be around people that are like that. Because when I hang out with people and I spend a good portion of my life surrounding myself with people who are not like that, and I felt crazy all the time, and I was called crazy, and it caused me to live a more timid, quote unquote, safer life. Although, come to find out, it's not actually safer. It's just a more comfortable death. So anyways, thanks, Kelsey, for that reminder. And for all you guys out there that have the courage to face that in these episodes. All right, it's time for an advertisement. Speaking of courage, we're going to be talking about Anchor, the company that we use to create these podcasts. That's if you're on YouTube, you just experience this awkward silence all the time, but that's the least of our problems right now, honestly. Okay, I thought I'd just spend a moment and talk about like the challenges of making this podcast for us. Because I don't know, sometimes I feel like we bitch too much, but then sometimes it's like it's our fucking podcast, so deal with it. But there are challenges. There were a lot of challenges, and we already talked about the tech ones of just getting set up. But in the early on, we smoked a lot of cigars. I'm not smoking now because I had mouth surgery this morning, which I don't want to sound like too dramatic, but they like gave me steroids. They tried to give me antibiotics.
It was fucking traumatic. What are you talking about?
Well,
you slept the whole day. That's how traumatic it was.
I kind of want to tell my sleeping story. I'm going to.
Oh,
okay, so
God. Okay.
Fucking Cammy. I had this mouth surgery this morning, and I'll describe it. I guess this is common, but I need like a tooth, like a fake one, like not a crown, but like I had a tooth extraction.
Right.
So they had to drill a hole into my jaw today and put a peg with a bone graft, slice me open. I was awake for all of it. All while, by the way, the dentist and his assistant is talking about homecoming, like their kid's homecoming, and you can't say anything. Your mouth's like, ah. And then they're like,
so awkward.
They're like, okay, take it easy. Like, take this steroid pill, do the antibiotics. I'm like, well, I'm not doing the antibiotics. And they're like, okay. Take it easy. And I'm like, I was going to play racquetball because I always play racquetball on Mondays, and I don't miss it. I mean, I ran 60 miles last weekend on Sunday, and I ran on Monday. So I was like, well, I'm going to do it. And I was like, you know what?
You mean you ran on.
Maybe I will take the day off.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, there's a higher percentage chance of your body accepting the, whatever it's called, the post or peg that's in my jaw right now, this metal piece of metal. So I did the smart move, and I laid down at 11 a.m. And I was like, I basically slept for 5 hours. I don't know what the hell happened. But in the middle of that, Cammy wakes me up.
Okay.
So
Towards the
I'm
end of the 5 hours.
Bleeding
I
on
come
my
in.
pillow.
Hold on. I come in to read.
No, hang on. I'm telling the story, and then you can tell your part at the end.
Fine. Go ahead.
Because I honestly think people say I'm an ass. At the end of this, they're going to be on my side. You don't. You fucked up on this one.
I don't know. I can tell my side.
Okay, well,
I'll
tell my side first, then you tell your side, and you see there's no way. But you can leave a comment as to who, you know. Okay, so I'm fucking sleeping, bleeding on my pillow, recovering from surgery. Oh. Now I'm trying to ham it up a little bit.
Bled on your pillow?
Yeah, I did.
From your
Which they
drool?
told me would happen. Yeah, because I had nosebleed.
Okay.
On steroids. And Cammy wakes me up, and it turns out she was sitting next to me with her book, and she said I was breathing on her while I'm sleeping, recovering from surgery, and she's sitting next to me reading a book, like not even laying down trying to sleep, just sitting there. And I'm like, you woke me up to tell me I'm breathing on you? And then guess what? She just left. So I'm sitting there just awake now.
Well, yeah, I fucking left. Well, anyways.
After you woke me up.
That was actually nice of me to fucking leave you at that point.
I didn't care if you were there, as long as you're not waking me up for breathing.
Oh, I didn't feel very welcome.
Okay, let's hear your side of the story.
Okay. So, okay. I'm trying to hear you. Like, yeah, definitely you had major surgery. So I wanted you to be able to sleep for a long time. So I think you slept for something like 5 hours. And this was towards the end of the day. And I really felt like I needed some quiet time. And I wasn't going to get it downstairs. It was hotter than Hades outside. And the only time I would go outside is if I were going to smoke. But I was trying not to smoke because I'm trying only to smoke a few times a week. So the only quiet, not sweating my ovaries off place to go where there's like somewhere comfortable to sit was my bedroom. So I go in there and I try to be quiet and go in there and I woke you up just by walking in there, by the way. So you were already awake. And then
Barely, like in and out of
okay,
consciousness.
yes, barely. And then I sit down and probably literally 1 minute later, I know I have this quirky thing about me that I really, really don't like breath in my face. So I will say that that's quirky, but whatever. So like I'm sitting up and he's sleeping and he's like doing this thing where it's like, I don't know if I can even do it. Okay, ready? Through his mouth. So if you can't see me, I'm breathing through my mouth like every 4 seconds or something.
Like you do when you're in a deep fucking sleep after surgery.
Yes. And no offense, but maybe I don't think you'll be offended, but your breath didn't smell the best. Of course not, because you just had mouth surgery. And I was like, damn it, I don't want to sit. I'm trying to find this like quiet place. It's the only place. And he's fucking breathing on me.
What, your leg?
No. In my face. I could feel it and I could smell it. Okay. So then I was like, I really didn't want to, but I was like kind of desperate at this point of just needing some like alone time, downtime, reading my fucking book. So I just like, hey Ben, hey,
You're breathing.
You're breathing on me. Can you, and then then you were like, can you not wake me up to tell me that I'm breathing on you? And I was like, okay. And that's why I left, because I kind of hurt my feelings. And I also felt like I wasn't welcome there. And I wanted to like relax. And I didn't feel like a relaxing atmosphere anymore.
It was totally relaxing.
So anyways.
Up until you woke me up.
So I can see both sides. Okay, being an Enneagram 9, like I get it. I get like, okay, he had surgery, so don't be an ass. But I like had a fucking long day and I just wanted like I didn't want to be breathed in my face. Oh. Well.
Could you have maybe like put a pillow?
Smothered you? Sorry.
No, like in between us?
I could have. I don't think I was like in a super great mood either. So I was just kind of like, oh. And I kind of thought you were already awake. Like if I would have known that you were like, you know, in between I think I would have hopefully like gone to plan B.
All right.
But
vote below. Who was the bigger ass?
I'm fine with you voting for Ben because he needs it. Like a lot of people think he's an asshole and he's not always an asshole. Sometimes I am an asshole. And he did have mouth surgery, so.
I mean, I have like I do have sympathy for you. It's just a really small amount in this case.
Yeah. I was just like, I fucking need an office. You know what I should have done is I should have gone up to your office and the other.
You totally could have done that.
And the other house and blared the AC.
And a chair. I would give you that whole entire thing.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Next time.
All right. Oh my gosh, what were we talking about? Okay.
That was a diversion.
We were talking about challenges that we faced. So I had mouth surgery today, and you know what? We're down here fucking podcasting. We're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Not making excuses. And I don't say that to say we're superstars, but that's been the case a lot of nights as we've had things and we had this goal and now we have a kid walking in. That's another challenge that happens.
Here, I'll deal with this. Hi, honey.
I'm ready for bed and look at my hair memory
Hey,
made.
you want to say goodnight here? Here, let me show you this.
Really like it. Okay.
Well, we're trying to record right now.
Yeah,
Can
normally
you
this
say,
is
here, you
not-
talk here. Can you say goodnight?
Good night.
Good job. Come here.
All right, can you,
Yeah, I'm going to pass off.
like in 10 seconds?
Yeah, right here.
Okay. We're back. So this is one of the challenges, is having 6 children in a house above your head making noise while you're trying to record a podcast. But we did it just under the belief that we need this forward motion. If we wait till there's no excuses, we'll never record this. We had questions of, will anyone listen to this? Is this worth it? It's an hour to record. It's probably an hour to prepare, and it's about an hour to publish. Mm-hmm. So it's about 3 hours a week for sometimes like 100 people.
Yeah.
And I would say the biggest challenge has actually been the only time we could do it that was quiet was at nighttime.
And even then, it's not always.
So it's like, after a long day of life, we're burned out. A lot of these we did on our date night. So we'd go out on date night and we'd like come back at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and then we'd start recording a podcast.
Right.
So those were some of the challenges we faced. But I'm glad we are here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's listen to our last phone call.
Hi, Cammy and Ben. My name's Jenny, or Bad Wolf Mom from before. I listened to every single one of the podcasts, and I'm actually in tear up a little bit because you asked for how you guys have changed, or like a story about how things have kind of maybe challenged a little bit. I have 15-year-old twin boys, and listening to your podcast has changed how I have approached them and viewed them and interacted with them. And I guess I'm going to tear up because our relationship is so much better since I stopped looking at a lot of the issues that we were having as things that I needed to change for them. They are diagnosed as being on the autistic spectrum, and I was told from day one to focus on making them as normal as possible and treating them like a project. And I guess after I stopped focusing on all that and looking at, well, maybe I don't need to change them, and that maybe we just need to look to see what kind of a blessing they can bring into, my life. It completely changed how our whole lives, really. So now, as a result, Jonah is going to be going into a computer training program as a sophomore in high school because he's excelled so much and grown so much when we stopped trying to make him normal, so to speak. He's flourished and he's doing amazing. Got accepted into an early enrollment tech program and is an amazing person. Things that I didn't see before. And Jesse has opened up so much because we're not inhibiting him anymore. He's talking to us more, he's interacting more, and he's just flourished so much as a person. So thank you for putting that idea out there that kids aren't projects, their blessings, and I just wanted to say thanks for that. Bye.
Wow.
Whoa, mic drop.
Are you crying?
I teared up. Yeah, it gave me goosebumps. Just, sheesh, for her to be just to have such tender heart towards her boys that she could just, like, you just knew she actually wanted what's best, and she realized what's best is to not treat them like projects. But that's, wow.
Well, this way of seeing people, which is one of our core beliefs, it's unbelievable to me how much work it is to treat someone like a project, how dehumanizing it is, and how, well, I guess I already said this, but how difficult it is. So when you stop it, it's weird. It's this like dehumanizing, hard work that people feel like they have to do.
It's because they treat themselves that way.
Yeah. And when you stop it, everyone's like, okay. And I feel like I'm still living this. Like, you know, we've stopped with the no rules thing that we've had this year, especially with our teenagers. Life is so great right now that I'm not having to be a cop all the time and enforce rules.
Yeah.
Otherwise, being a cop is my full-time job. And I'm just like, I can just like love them, and they do like crazy ass shit, you know. But I can focus on what's wrong with myself or why I'm not able to accept them for who they are instead of enforcing things. And I just love life more. So to hear her share this story about how she can just now accept her kids and love them, and how maybe I'm putting my own story on top of that, but how relaxing and calming that can be. I mean, I just know it's a full-time job to try and change someone.
Well, and she mentioned that she's able to enjoy them so much more now. And I think when you work so hard to try to change someone, you can't really enjoy them. So I think that's so fucking great that she can enjoy them.
That story is cool.
Thank you. I didn't catch your name. Did you?
I didn't catch it either.
Okay. Thank you.
That makes it worth it. Huh?
Yeah. I think that does. It all does, but this definitely just really hit home.
Yeah. Man.
Where do we go from there?
I can't even think of anything else to go, except for I have it stuck in my head because I wanted to bring it up. The reason why we're talking about smoking is this podcast was so hard at the beginning that the only way I could get you down here, is like promising you cigars,
right,
and sangria. So I'd be like, Cammy, here, there's a cigar downstairs, let's go. And you're like, oh, okay. So we'd come down and we'd smoke and talk. But I'm not allowed to smoke for 2 weeks with my tooth.
Yeah. And I think smoking, not that, I don't know how much we bear weight in this, but smoking maybe bothers a few people that listen to us. But are we going to talk about the ice cream? Because we ate ice cream a couple times.
No, once. I think it was once.
Oh, it was just once.
And people were like...
People were trying to be really polite about it, but they were like, yeah, you know when you guys were eating ice cream, that was like really distracting.
It turns out, like, who would have thought that there's that much audio with eating ice cream? It makes sense.
Well, because you're constantly clinking the bowl.
And you're like,
right. Not to mention the ice cream in your mouth.
So we learned not to do that. And I don't give a shit about people that have a problem with smoking, but I think we are starting to evolve a little bit into a higher quality audio experience, which could mean, and this is where we're going to end, is what's the future of Fight for Together podcast. I'm in this tough space, and I have a feeling I'll be here for the rest of my life, which is the conflict between authenticity and service. Like, how much do we just preserve who we really are, which would be like smoking a cigar and talking? and it's going to be a longer podcast. You're going to be like hearing us cut cigars, and it's going to be 5 minutes of wasted time. And it's not the most professional experience, but it's us. Mm-hmm. And that, not only is it us, but it's when you present who you really are, I think it's the best guarantee for longevity. Because the alternate is to essentially put on a show, and I don't mean that with a negative connotation, but it's like we're having in mind like what's most likely going to serve our audience.
Yeah.
And if we do that, that's great. It'll result in a higher quality product, quote unquote. But we're going to have less energy because it's like there's only so much energy you have to put
muster.
on a show.
Yeah.
And I'm really torn between those two things right now.
Well, and I think we can just take it a season at a time. I mean, I think there'll be some seasons we'll have more energy than others. I don't know. I can just see that, it happens. So.
Yeah. But I think either one's going to be okay, whichever one we choose. That's what that's what I'm trying to tell myself, because I feel like, maybe it's selfish to smoke cigars, while on the podcast and like waste people's time by talking about small talk and stuff. But if we don't do that, the reality is the podcast is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because we're going to dread it.
Yeah.
Anyways, those are kind of like the demons we're wrestling with. And finally, I'd like to just end off with the future. So after 50 episodes, we are going to be tightening things up a little bit. I think we're going to be trying to prepare more like a concise, like 3-point episode with less small talk. And one of the reasons is because I'd love for you guys to be able to share these episodes with other people to the degree that they're helpful. And a lot of times with our format, I just realize that, there's a lot of backstory. And if you don't know it, and if you just hop in on an episode, if you're not like attracted to who we are, or if you don't know anything about us, it's going to be really hard to jump in. Mm-hmm. And I would like to make that easier for people. So I think in the future, we're going to have like a title of a podcast. The podcast is going to be more on point with that particular topic. And I guess if you're asking what you could do on your part, there's a few things that you can do. One is you can contribute money to our chair fund, because we are going to be looking at changing podcast locations, and I think it might almost be time to buy chairs. And we're thankful for everyone that has contributed so far. You could also, you know what? You could subscribe.
Oh yeah, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Let me see how many we got.
We're getting there. We have 907. So, and what happens? We can
turn on ads on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay.
Because currently we make like less than $5 a week from this podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm also fine with making more money.
It's also fine asking for help. Yeah.
And then finally, we may have mentioned this once before, but there's 22 reviews on iTunes that people have commented and left reviews, and I appreciate that. So if you would like to do that, you can do that.
Yep.
And then you can vote in the comments on YouTube about this specific podcast if you think Cammie was a bigger asshole than Ben in this particular case. So you're not committing to any like long-term
assholeness.
Yeah, it's really just,
context.
I had my moment of not being the biggest asshole. I would really appreciate that.
Yeah. I guess you kind of need that. All right, give it to Ben, people. Give it to Ben.
And finally, next week, we are going to be launching our Everyone Belongs podcast with sharing a multi-part episode of our spiritual story and our background. And I think that means we'll be taking a break from the Fight for Together podcast, but we will be putting still a podcast out a week as our goal.
Either Fight for Together or Everyone Belongs.
Yes, you just won't know where it was. So you'd have to kind of like subscribe to both and check them both out if you want to listen to that angle of our story. If not, this channel will still be dedicated to the types of things that we think will build relationships and families. And that's why I love that last story. I mean, we cover a lot of range, but when I hear stories like that, I'm like, fuck yeah, we're doing something right, because that ability to accept your child for who they are right now, let's talk about that for another 50 episodes.
Yeah.
If I get 5 more phone calls that say that in the next 50.
I love the universality of that message too, because that supersedes any kind of religion or spirituality or anything. That's great.
All right. Hey, thanks guys for listening. We appreciate you. Thanks for the phone calls. I might have forgot or lost some that called in for the 50th. If so, we'll probably just play them for future episodes. So if you did call and your phone call didn't get in,
what?
Sorry, and thank you. Thanks for everyone that has made the last 50 episodes great.
Yes.
We're looking forward to another 50, and you know where to find us.
Subscribe.
Thank you for listening to Fight for Together. We'll see you next time.